Almost every single one of us has wrestled with that heavy, frustrating feeling of just absolutely avoiding our textbooks. Today, we're unpacking the fascinating, hidden mechanics of the human brain to decode the psychology behind why people, maybe even you, absolutely hate studying. Let's dive right into this explainer.
I want you to be completely honest with yourself for just a second. Why do you hate studying? Think about that familiar wave of guilt. Why is it that no matter how important a huge exam is or how much you genuinely want to succeed, you still delay it? Why do you actively avoid it? Why do you feel completely drained and exhausted just thinking about opening a textbook? It's a really heavy, frustrating feeling, isn't it?
Okay, let's dive into this. Society, your teachers, and, let's be real, probably even your own internal voice, often label this resistance as just plain laziness. But psychology reveals something entirely different. This avoidance, it isn't a character flaw, it's actually a complex, deeply ingrained psychological response. There is something much, much deeper happening beneath the surface. And today, we're going to diagnose exactly what that is.
Here's the roadmap for our explainer today. 1. The illusion of laziness. 2. Emotional blocks and fear. 3. Dopamine and distraction. 4. Flawed tactics and environments. And 5. The concept of learned avoidance.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the illusion of laziness, and unpacking the stress connection.
And this brilliantly illustrates how a well-meaning academic environment can actually turn studying into a literal threat. Look at how it escalates. For many of us, studying is introduced alongside intense pressure or the fear of being judged. Over time, your brain wires those things together, right? It connects the act of studying with deep, deep emotional discomfort. Ultimately, studying becomes an automatic stress trigger. Your brain literally wants to escape the activity just to protect you.
So, an automatic stress response means you don't even have to start reading to feel it. Even just sitting at your desk and opening a book can trigger a physiological reaction where your brain screams, "Danger! Let's get out of here." It completely prioritizes escaping rather than engaging. You know that overwhelming urge you suddenly feel to go clean your room or check your phone? Yeah, that isn't laziness. That is your brain reacting to associated stress. It's wild. Moving right along to Section 2, emotional blocks and fear, which is all about the brain's self-protection mechanism.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that there's this silent, subconscious script running in so many students' heads: if I don't fully try, failure doesn't define me. This is the ultimate self-protection mechanism. Deep down, we fear failure immensely, because trying your absolute hardest and still failing, that's a massive blow to your self-image. So your brain creates this brilliant, albeit completely destructive excuse. By avoiding studying, you literally give yourself an out. If you fail the test, you can just brush it off and say, well, I barely studied anyway.
Avoidance feels incredibly safe in the moment, right? But it quietly blocks your growth. Your brain is handing you a short-term shield against feeling inadequate, but the long-term cost is astronomical. It completely halts your personal and academic progress. Basically, you are trading your true potential for just a temporary feeling of safety.
Okay, let's look at Section 3, dopamine and distraction, and the absolute battle for your attention. Let's move to and see how this builds on the last point. Your brain is evolutionarily wired to prefer instant gratification. Quick dopamine activities like scrolling through social media, watching a quick video, or playing a game provide an instant feedback loop. You click, you get rewarded instantly. Boom. Studying, however, that offers delayed results. Exams, grades, and future success might be months or even years away. Compared to your phone, studying feels incredibly boring to your brain because it completely lacks that quick feedback loop it naturally craves. And because of this constant battle for dopamine, a lot of people falsely believe they lack intelligence or they think they just aren't cut out for school. But the real issue here is simply attention. When you're constantly distracted, your concentration just plummets, and mental fatigue sets in rapidly. This weak focus makes studying feel 10 times harder than it actually is. It creates this powerful illusion that the subject matter itself is the problem, when really, it's just your exhausted attention span crying out for a break.
On to Section 4, flawed tactics and environments, or why exactly how and where you study matters so much.
Listen, your behavior is heavily dictated by external factors. Think about it. Most people are never actually taught how to study. We rely on passive learning or endless rereading, which science shows is incredibly ineffective. Combine that with noisy surroundings, high distractions like a phone buzzing every 2 minutes, and a complete lack of routine. So the crucial point is that your surroundings and your methods are shaping your behavior way, way more than your raw motivation ever could.
When you use bad tactics in a terrible environment, you end up putting in hours of effort without seeing the results. And when effort doesn't give results, the brain starts actively resisting the process. Honestly, it's perfectly logical. If you keep studying for hours using passive techniques and you still get a C-, your brain learns that studying is a frustrating, completely pointless endeavor, and it will actively fight your attempts to stay consistent.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5. It is learned avoidance. This is the ultimate takeaway.
If you recognize yourself in these past few minutes, if you felt that guilt, that stress, that overwhelming urge to scroll instead of read, I really want to unburden you right now. You don't intrinsically hate studying. You aren't lazy, and you are definitely not unintelligent. Your brain simply learned to avoid it. The early stress, the fear of failure, the lack of instant dopamine, and the wildly flawed environments all teamed up to train your brain to run away from textbooks. It is a learned behavior, nothing more.
And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. If your brain has simply learned to avoid studying, well, that means it can unlearn it, right? So I leave you with this. What small steps can you take today to help your brain unlearn that avoidance? Can you tweak your environment? Can you find a totally different study tactic? Can you just forgive yourself for falling for the illusion of laziness? The power to rewire your brain is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this fascinating topic today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.